That's why I got a one.
Okay.
All right. Wreck the video. And wreck the video. All right. Okay. That's strapped on. I'm wired. All right. Good. Yeah, so we can start Q&A. I'll give an answer and somebody ask a question. Gul Dukat found religion in the... Love this. All right, anyway, so questions, please. Yes, Steph.
First night, we were all very pleased to meet your lovely talented daughter, Rachel, on ER. And I looked at very good with blonde hair right at first. She certainly didn't look that way when I met her at St. Cat's time.
Is it blonde? I think...
Maybe it was the hotel TV, I don't know. I should have had my glasses on, maybe. But anyway, she was right in George Clooney's face and gave him
She
exactly
did.
what he deserved.
Hey, actually...
Basically, my question is, would you please indulge me with your proud Papa Richie?
Right. Well, you want to hear it? I'm a poor version of a proud papa. I missed it because I was working that night and my VCR went south on me. Yeah, so it was really incredibly stupid. But we had to encourage her because she was so in awe of the fact that her scenes were going to be with George Clooney. So we had to encourage her not to be nice to him. To go after that sucker, the guy puts on his underpants like anyone else, so
He had it coming, too.
Yes, well, good. Yeah, he was. But I am very proud of her. I really am. I think she's an amazing actor. I really do.
This goes to yesterday where we really talk about his children. This one's doing okay, this one's not doing so okay.
Listen, I mean, it's always, it's a dicey thing, parenthood, as a lot of you know. But she did this film last year, this independent film. It was her first lead in a film called Loser Love. And so she's going to New York in a couple of weeks to see the screening of it. So she's very excited and scared. So, I hope it's a good film.
We all wish her well.
But thank you very much. Yeah. The birthday girl.
Okay, you know how Garrett is kind of secretive of everything. Do you think by the end of the show we're going to find out the truth about Era?
No. I hope we never find the truth about Garrett. I really do. There's so many. There's so. I don't think so. I don't see how they can do it. But I'm hoping not. For a lot of reasons. One very selfish reason is that I was saying to someone earlier, I think at lunch, that if they don't, whatever they don't tell about Garrett, I'm going to make it all up in the diary. Because I already have all the answers anyway. To all of his secrets and his mysteries. What I think is true. So I'm hoping that they don't come up with a version. Then my version can wash. Yes, sir.
So my question was, if it's not going to come out, what would be your theory of where he learned to sew? I learned in the Boy Scouts. I don't know where.
Well, you see, that's actually in one of the very first diaries that I wrote. That when he was exiled to Terracanor, and it was such a humiliating experience that they all expected him to fold because it was really a fall of the mighty. I mean, this guy was very high up in an organization, the Obsidian Order, which is probably up there with, in the government with, what is the Central Command? What is that? No. It is Central Command. that group that actually runs the country. But it's like, say, if Bill Clinton is sent to wash out in the men's washroom, which a lot of people want to send him there. And they thought that Garrick would fold. And they gave him this like little shop, and the whole purpose was that he was now going to mend ripped Cardassian soldiers' uniforms. And the fact that he decided to get back at them by being really good at it. And so that's where I think he's totally self-taught, and he's probably superb. There was a while when I thought he was a lousy tailor, but now I think he's probably a great tailor.
So he didn't learn it until he had to. He wasn't something he'd been doing all his life as a child, sewing things.
Not at all. Not at all. Unless he took, brain surgery as an elective, in school. But somebody had a hand up over here. There. Yes.
This is a two-part question.
Yes.
First is, what was it like to direct Jack Nicholson? And the second is, this is sort of like a which comes first, the chicken or the egg question.
First part of the question, so everybody knows, is I just finished directing a production of Arthur Miller's play Death of a Salesman, and the star, the leading actor, was Jack Klugman, who plays Willie Loman, and what was it like to direct him? And the second one, this is which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Do they choose the play first, the director, and then does the director choose the actors? When production is going to be put on in the theater, which gets chosen and what?
Okay, yeah. How does a theatrical production get put together? In this sense, I'm going to answer the second question first. Is they had a director and they fired him in the first week. So a friend of mine, Raphael Savage, who played Biff, who was a wonderful, wonderful young actor, and he was brilliant in this play. He went to the producers, actually went to Jack Klugman, and he said, listen, because they didn't know what the hell to do now. They were in a lot of trouble. They lost their director in the first week. So my friend Raphael went to Jack Klugman and said, I know the guy who should direct this. It's Andy Robinson. You should meet him. So I met with Jack Klugman, and we had a great meeting. We liked each other, and then he hired me. But you see, in this case, the production was already in place. They already had a cast. I had no say about the cast. And it was a question of me to get up to speed and get familiar enough with the play where I could actually help actors, do it. What usually happens is with a company like the Matrix Theater Company that a number of you have heard about that I belong to in Los Angeles. We'll start thinking about plays we want to do, and then we'll pick a play. And usually it's whoever is closest to the play in terms of who has a feeling for that kind of play, who will direct it. And then, since we have a company, then we cast it out of that company. It depends. And if it's commercial theater, producers will pay a lot of money for a play, and then the producers will hire the director and have a large say in who's cast in it, and try to get stars. I'm now probably going to start working on a 2-character play where they want stars, because that's what they want. And they figure, and that's one of the things that happens. They want stars because they want to get fannies in the seats. If it's Jack Klugman, Jack Klugman because of Odd Couple and Quincy, and the medical examiner show that he did, and a lot of things, people will come to see him. One of the things that I want to do, and I was just talking to Sid about this, is that Irene and I want to produce a play with Star Trek actors.
Yes.
Definitely. And the actors who have expressed a lot of enthusiasm for that are, Ethan Phillips and Picardo, Renee, Armin, Sid, and Robbie McNeil. Actually, Robbie McNeil, in a sense, was kind of instrumental. I mean, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and Sid has been thinking about this for a long time, but Robbie McNeil called me a few weeks ago and said, I want to do a play. What are you doing? I want to do a play with you. And that's when I realized, oh, now it's time to do this. So hopefully this spring we'll get something together. But Jack Klugman is a magnificent man. I don't know how many of you know this. This is ridiculous. feel like there's something goose in me. So we can still see this, and I can perch here too. And if it falls down, then we'll all have a good laugh, won't we? Jack Klugman, as most of you know, had throat cancer, and he was left with one vocal cord left, and basically thought that he would never act again. His friend Tony Randall, obviously, they spent many years together on Odd Couple, was running a theater in New York, and said, just get the thing operated on and come back to work. And he basically, Jack was frightened to death. He thought he'd never act again. And Tony Randall, who was obviously, a very decent man and a good friend, said, just forget about it. Get it rebuilt, and they got a play. They did, Kaufman Hart played Beggar on Horseback, and he went back to work. He's now since done several plays. For a while, he had a box in his throat, but now they've actually rebuilt it in such a way that he really is operating with his own vocal equipment, his cords and so forth. But it's a voice that sounds like this. It's sort of like he sounds like Odo sometimes. It's uncanny. So you have to mic him, but it's not for volume. You can hear him. Like we could all hear him very well in this room. But they mic him for clarity to get rid of some of the gravelly, interference from the voice. But he's wanted to play this role. This play is 50 years old. It was done this February, 50 years ago for the first time with Lee J. Cobb on Broadway. And Jack saw that production. And ever since then, he's had a passionate desire to play that role for 50 years. And now is his chance. And the guy is brilliant. He was like a kid in these rehearsals. He was a 76-year-old man. And he was taking, charge and just leading the other actors into, And so as a result, the performance is so passionate and so heartfelt. And even his voice works for him because he's playing a man who's desperately trying to communicate, who's desperately trying to be heard in the world. He's a little man. He's a little salesman who lives in Brooklyn, and he wants to be known. He wants to make it, be a winner in the American dream. And so you have an actor with that voice who's desperately trying to be heard and to communicate with other people with that voice. So it's incredibly moving. And any of you who are in the Los Angeles area, I know Vicki has come to see it. You
sounded a lot like it.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah. I do a great imitation of Jack. As a matter of fact, he fell on the floor the other day. But if you're in the neighborhood, come and see it. It's a treat. It really is. It's at Gary Marshall built a new theater in the part of Los Angeles called Toluca Lake. And some of you are from Toluca Lake here. And it's called the Falcon Theater. And is playing through the end of this month, through the end of October. You're just fanning yourself. Anyway, what's your question? What have you always wanted to ask? A know-it-all like me.
How about would you compare your experience working with Clint Eastwood or portraying Liberace?
There are two roles that I loved a lot. Two of my favorite roles were the Scorpio Killer in Dirty Harry and Liberace, honestly. And it's interesting, you should talk about, you mentioned those two roles, because no two people on earth could be more diametrically opposites. They are 180 degrees removed. And it's one of the things I think that baffles people in this business, because, how do you say this without sounding like totally egotistical? Well, screw it, you just say it. Basically, when you're an actor and you have that kind of range where you can play, a gay, sweet, amazing piano player like Liberace, and this homicidal murderer like, the Scorpio Killer from Dirty Harry, it confuses people in the business. Because they really figure, oh yeah, he's a psychopathic killer. Wait a second, he just played this gay piano player. What do we do with this guy? And Clint Eastwood is not Liberace. That's That's all I'll say about Clint. Other than that, other than the fact that I like him a lot. He's a really good guy. He's a good guy for a movie star, you know. Yes.
What kind of roles have you been offered now that you're doing Deep Space Nine? I know you've been directing, but have you been offered any roles with a sort of sci-fi flavor, or have they been pretty much what you always got?
You know, it's interesting. I'm only now sort of like getting back, because you know, the reality is this is the last season of Deep Space Nine, so we all have to get real here, you know, and realize, you know, we're going to have to punch our meal ticket to some other restaurants. So it's knowing that I had a job that was going to pay the bills for a while. I really concentrated on directing. I wasn't looking for acting work, and I spent most of my time in the theater, because in the theater you don't make any money. And so if you've got a job that is going to pay the bills, then that's a great time to, like, you know, do theater. So it's only now that I'm really getting serious about looking for other acting work and getting my acting career back on a track and moving on to whatever the next phase is. I mean, right now I'll get offered, you know, it's not terribly interesting stuff. I did this film last year that's, as I said to some of you last night, that's going straight to the back row of the video store where it should go. You know, quite honestly, it's sad but true. And then the television stuff that I'm offered, you know, is so uninteresting to me. I mean, you know, I quite honestly, I'm not one of these people who goes around moaning and groaning, but I find, you know, that have any of you seen the new shows this season? I'm telling you, we're in a lot of trouble. I mean, we are in a lot of trouble. So it's, you know, but I'm trying to take charge of my own life at this point, and I really am. Like, you know, like Irene and I been talking about producing this Star Trek production, with the directing. I'm trying to do stuff that I want to do, that I feel proud about doing. You know, a Garrick doesn't come along, but rarely. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I can come to, you know, rooms like this and talk to you all about this, because it's work that I'm absolutely proud of. And as I've said a number of times, and many of you have heard it, it's some of the best work I've ever done in my life as an actor. And it's because the character is so terrific and so compelling. That's why, you know, those diaries, I get involved in those diaries, and I can do those diaries forever and read those diaries anytime at the drop of a hat, because I love the character. And the writers laid down a wonderful base for that character, and a great premise for a guy who you just never know. It's like watching, you know, a pool of water. I mean, basically, it's just rippling, and it's on the surface, and you know that there's something underneath it, but you don't know what the hell it is. So it's, you know, it's so amazing at 56 years old to say, you know, I'm still finding myself, but I am. I'm still reinventing myself. Yes?
What do you think you tell us about Andy Robinson, the writer?
Andy Robinson, the writer, is always wanted to write, and has always loved reading and writers, and has always been frightened to death of writing, because Andy Robinson, the writer, never had what my friend, the very good writer, Michael Ventura, called the talent of the room. And the talent of the room is the ability to walk into a room, shut the door, sit down, and pick up a pen and look at a piece of paper and stay there in front of that piece of paper for several hours, even when nothing wants to come out and get written on that piece of paper. That's the first talent about writing, is to be able to go into, I'm a very talented writer, but that's the one talent I have not had. Thankfully, there are a few things, because I've written stuff sporadically over my life, plays and so forth. But these diaries have sort of like, diaries have sort of blown, fresh air into me. I mean, it's hopefully not hot air, but I feel that this is opening up a whole new area for me. And I'm even thinking about, there's a theatrical piece I want to write, that I'm going to start working on. So, the talent of the room. It's a tough one. Yes.
I really enjoyed your reading the Garrett Diaries last night. That was my first chance to hear it. What have you thought of doing that on stage?
Well, somebody mentioned this earlier today, and I got to tell you that last night. See, one of the great things about the promenade this weekend is that it's a fairly intimate affair. So, the readings, the Garrett Diaries, readings of the Garrett Diary always work a lot better with a smaller group. And last night I got a feeling that, because I've always dismissed the idea of doing it on stage because I don't want to go on stage in makeup. I do not want to, and plus, the whole thing with Paramount and all that stuff. But I realized last night it doesn't make any difference whether I have the makeup on or not, because after a while you just accept it that this is a Garrick. It's not the Garrick that we see on the little box, but it is a version of Garrick that's just as valid and certainly just as dramatic. So I am considering that, especially if that guy from Simon Schuster never calls me back. Yes, Derek.
A couple of years ago, you were nice enough to appear at Tropicon, which is a literary convention held in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you could, would you like to come back and read the Garrett Diary to Tropicon if ever you were given a chance?
If given, I'll tell you what, I will, if you give me, in other words, if we do it like a staged reading, you give me a couple hours with an intermission, I'll do it. And then what I'll do is I'll give you guys an arc of the whole thing. So there'll be a beginning, middle, and end. So if you are willing to give me that kind of commitment to me, I commit to you with that.
I will talk to the USP about that.
Yeah, talk to the USP and the powers that be. Yes and yes.
You talked about doing it on stage. How about an audiobook?
I'd love to do an audio set. I mean, because that's what I think ideally would be the best thing. But again, you get into legal hassle, and I have no idea what that hassle involves. That's why I tried to go via the route of Simon & Schuster, because if I could do a book for them, then very easily that could translate into an audio tape. Because I think an audio tape is ideal. It really is. And especially when he's talking about, because most of you, those of you who hadn't heard the new stuff, I go on about that school he goes to. And there's a whole world in that school that's really wonderful, and that the imagination. Just listening to that, you'd be able to see that much better. Yes. That was your question. Audiobook, yeah, coming right up.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. Even while you were there and watching it, I found myself just totally picturing in my mind what it would be like.
Yeah.
So you don't need, you really don't. In fact, Alien Voices, one of the things I liked about Alien Voices, they have black background, wear black clothes. And so there's, other than their face and seeing the sound effect stuff off to the side,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's better because then you're not distracted by all the hoopla, the special effects and everything. You can
No,
just
I agree.
use your brain.
That's why I think that, the idea of the CopperCon would give me a chance to do a dress rehearsal of an idea of, I could do a first draft of a staged reading that I think, to take it towards a one-person show.
Well, I'm sure that the United Federation of Phoenix would welcome you back to Arizona.
That's it. All right. All right. Okay. I've been hired here. I'm arranging the tickets. Yes.
What's your favorite genre of literature?
It really is. It's fiction. Fiction and what's that book that we read recently that just knocked me out? trying to think.
Thomas Caine's book?
That's, yeah. There's fiction, and then there's this guy, Thomas Cahill, who wrote 2 books, How the Irish Saved Civilization and The Gift of the Jews. Those 2 books are wonderful. They're amazing because it's sort of speculative history. It's philosophical history. It's someone who's thinking about how we got where we are as a people. And the first book deals with the Irish, that during the darkest parts of the Middle Ages, there were these monks, Irish monks, who were living on the west coast of Ireland, living in these caves. You know, I mean, like with barely enough to eat and clothe themselves, who were copying out the great books of civilization and saving them, while other people were going around Europe and burning them up, or using them as toilet paper. There were these guys who were like saving literature. And then the other thing, which is The Gift of the Jews, is where he takes the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, and traces what the Jews of the Bible and those incredible people who wrote the Bible, down, what their gift is to us now, and it's a living gift. I mean, it's extraordinary stuff. As well as novels. I love good novels. Yes.
How far into Garrett Diaries have you listened?
Well, I go back and forth. I got them as a kid, right up to the present. And like last night when I was reading it takes off from In the Pale Moonlight, right after In the Pale Moonlight, to where he's reminiscing about when he was a kid in the school and so forth. But that's what I want to do eventually when the whole thing is done, is to give you a complete picture of the man from the time he was a kid, right up through school as a young man in the Obsidian Order, the various expeditions, adventures. There's one, I have basically my idea about him is that he spent many years away from Cardassia because he was always a loner. He never had a family, so he was so trusted by Nabrintane that he was sent on these very long-term assignments where he would be in another part of the galaxy for many years. Yes.
I've heard the full version of that part of your reading from Alaska to Spanish.
Yeah.
I got a 2 weeks worth, but I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
And yesterday was a wider version.
Yes.
Get me to laugh.
Yeah. It was. Yesterday was the third. Yeah, I mean, well, yesterday was not really fair because it doesn't pay off that thing. But the reason I chose the chunk that I chose yesterday is because it really deals with the man's sense of alienation. He feels like an alien. It's not just on Deep Space Nine. He feels like he's felt like an alien ever since he was a kid, because something was always weird about his parents, which we later find out. We know what happened about that. That's indeed his father is not his father. And his sponsor, obviously, you can guess who his sponsor, quote-unquote, is to the Bamaran Institute, simply because his mother and this guy in Nabrintane, and so forth. I'm telling you, it'd be a great soap opera. Couldn't you see that? As the Cardassian turns. I did one episode as this crazy Czech artist. I don't know the show. So they sent me this thing. I said, no, I don't want to do that. And then I saw he wears the beret. I'll tell you what he wears the beret and he talks in this weird accent. So I don't know, it's days of our lives. So I mean, there are a few people who, you know, who are at home, you know, like with a hangover, who turned on the television and caught it. But you know, but basically, it's like, so I don't know a Czech accent from a Schmeck accent. You know, even though Václav Havel is like one of my favorite people on earth. So I basically went in talking, and of course it's a soap opera. They're not serious about, you know, like using a serious accent. So I put a beret on, did this outrageous Bela Lugosi type accent, and chased this woman around the desk, you know, like, and that was a lot of fun. I'm shameless, I'll do anything.
Same question I asked Armin and Kitty yesterday. If acting didn't exist as a job, and you were going to do something else for a living, what would you have said?
The guy who invented acting. Yeah. You know, it really, I mean, there were things that I figured that, you know, well, I always wanted to be an actor, but I figured, well, you can't do that. That's for special people, obviously. So what I'll do is that, you know, I figured, well, I thought of politics for a while, and I thought of being in the diplomatic service. Then I thought, well, I'll teach, and a newspaper. I thought of being a newspaper reporter. I thought I had a bad drinking habit, but you know, and then going around and lying to everybody. But you know, eventually it would involve something that would be, you know, involve lying and, you know, and pretending that I was something that I'm not, politician, except for the teacher. The teacher was probably the most legitimate, you know, like idea, and that's probably what I would end up doing. I would be ending up teaching probably Elizabethan literature in some Eastern college right now. That's what I would do.
Was there ever a direction that you thought the show was going into, a misdirection, if it didn't go that way, the way you thought it was? Let me rephrase that. Was there a direction you would have liked to see your character in the show go, and you thought it was going there, but it didn't? It took a left turn.
No, not really. The only thing that confused me about the character Garrett was the way they dropped the ball, and I was talking about this earlier at lunch, the way they dropped the ball with the Garrett-Bashir the relationship, and that they'd never picked it up. And I knew, because as I said a lot of times, I knew that relationship had changed. The moment Bashir shoots Garrett in Our Man Bashir, it's no longer a teacher-student relationship. They're now peers. So the relationship changes. The reason for them being together changes. And then, of course, obviously, when he's genetically enhanced, which by the way, is a plot point that I've never taken seriously. I cannot take that seriously. Somehow there's something a bit meretricious about that. I feel that there's a certain opportunism, or I don't know. They're trying to turn him into a superhero or something. But even that changes the, you know, the balance, the equation. But wouldn't it have been interesting if the writers had really tried to find out where the relationship goes from there? You know, how do they now? Or if it doesn't, then have it, you know, then show how their relationship ruptures and so forth, which I will get into in the diary. See, this is what I mean. All the stuff they don't answer for me, I'm going to answer. That's the only thing that has either disappointed me or surprised me, you know, because usually they're fairly good about that. Other than that, I mean, I think they've been absolutely consistent with the character. There have been a couple of first drafts of episodes that they've given me where Garrett has been absolutely dead wrong. Usually written by a writer who didn't know the show very well, or didn't know the character that well. But then by the time they get to the rewrites, Ira Bear takes care of that.
You mentioned you were thinking of producing something. I know other actors have done, like Patrick Stewart and stuff. And exactly what does a producer do? We've learned a lot about directing, you know, from interviewing things, and they and the actors kind of make the show. But other than like paying the money, what exactly does a producer do?
There are two kinds of producers. One producer is the obvious one, the one that says, "Okay, here's the money, I have it. What do you want to do?" And I want to make twice as much on my investment. That's the one producer. And that's the producer with the most power. the one who has the money and finances the project. Then the second kind of producer is the kind of producer that Irene and I are interested in, is the kind of producer that comes up with the script, the idea. This is an idea. We'd like to expand this idea into a film, a TV show, a play, whatever. And that is the artistic side of producing, where you have an idea of who should direct, who are your actors. You have an understanding of, like, for instance, that's the whole idea of doing a play with Star Trek actors, because there are so many fabulous stage actors. I mean, superb stage actors, and most of them I've worked with on stage. So the idea is to find the right kind of material for that group of actors. Obviously, there aren't as many women as there are men. And maybe I can see maybe only 2 women, Kate and Nana, who would be interested in something like this. Whereas there are a lot more guys. So you'd have to find a stage piece that has a lot more men's roles, which isn't hard because that's most stage plays anyway. But that's the kind of producing that we're interested in doing. And then you go out and you look for that other producer who has the money, and you co-produce with the person with the money. Well, okay, with amplified. You organize it, yeah, of course. You organize it. You have to have, yeah, Irene's absolutely right. You have to have really good organizational capability. Because yes, right. I mean, you also have to be willing to, like, yes, you have to be willing to say when something is wrong, when something needs to be thrown out, when something needs to be fired. You have to make all those very hard choices. My favorite thing. Yes.
Have you thought about your own production?
Well, it's only, it's on a, yeah, we've thought about our own production company. That's too serious for me. It really is. I mean, project to project I can work on, but a production company, when you're working on several productions at the same time, that's amazing. The way those airplanes. The airplanes usually these airplanes out of this airport, they come like this. And I have a friend who's a pilot who says that this is. I shouldn't say this. Got it. No, you're right. Moving right along. Yes. I was afraid.
No, that is that they have never asked you, and this is some information you would like to impart, or something you would, like to.
No, I mean, this Star Trek crew is very thorough. I mean, by the time you finish, one of these Q&As, or certainly by the time you've done several of them, you've been picked through. I mean, there isn't much left that's a secret or a mystery to anyone. Well, that kind of secret. I mean, Actually, the great thing about it, since I've been doing these, when I first started doing these, the very first one was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, 1994. I think it was October of '94. It was 94, right. And the very first one I did, I had no idea what to expect. And I mean, like, it was a terrifying experience because I knew nothing about Star Trek. And I was facing a group of people like yourselves who knew everything about Star Trek. So the only thing I could do was just to sort of like admit my ignorance and throw myself on their mercy, and they were very kind to me. But but then I asked at that point, I said, but do ask me questions about what I do know. And that's what's happened ever since, is that people ask me stuff about acting and about theater and so forth. in that area, and it's really helped me get clear about a lot of things. About my work. I've understood a lot of stuff about my work that I've never, I never really understood before. Because I've never had to meet my audience before like this, or people who watch the shows that I act in. It's such a unique experience for all of us who are actors on the show.
I have a two-part question. I'm going to ask Dick the same question when he comes in. Essentially, you have two types of gatherings like this. You have the commercial conventions, and then you have the
evil empire type.
Also known as
and
creation.
you have events like this,
Yeah.
where the main purpose is people get together, share common experiences, and then do something good for the community to raise money for charity.
Exactly.
I've noticed, and this may be just my observations from out in left field, but particularly with the commercial events, I call it flat out gouging the public. They attract ticket holders or ticket purchasers by offering them the bait of you pay X amount of dollars and you're guaranteed an autograph or a reserved seat. And I don't have a problem if the money's going to charity. And I think everybody in this room doesn't have a problem with that, or you wouldn't be here. My question is, I don't think this is an answer.
No, don't be diplomatic.
Okay. What is your perception, first of all, or are you even aware that perhaps the commercial events in particular are demanding these kinds of prices and apparently getting them?
Yeah, we're aware. I mean, as you know, Sid doesn't do creation conventions. And that was basically that was basically because they treated him very badly. They treated him like a commodity, like a piece of meat, and he was absolutely right in his response. The reason Armin, Renee, Sid, and myself do this, and willingly and happily, are a couple of reasons. One is, obviously, because we know that we're going to be able to raise a lot of money for those charities that we have gotten involved with. The other is that we do feel a great deal of responsibility. No, responsibility is not the word. It's...
How about citizenship?
What?
Citizenship.
Citizenship. In other words, it's... You have supported us a great deal. You have, as well as running the fan clubs and doing all of that work for absolutely nothing. You have just simply supported us, and you've appreciated our work. And I can't speak for anyone else besides the four of us. But I do know that other actors, if they were given the same opportunity, Gail, that they would respond to something like this. They would also want to participate in events like this. Now, as for the other kind of event, that for me is a paycheck. They call me up and they say, we're going to give you X amount of dollars if you come and speak and so forth. I get on a plane, I go to this place, I try to be as polite and as friendly as I can be. I look out at something like the Pasadena Convention, I think, this is a zoo. What the hell is going on here? But they will exist as long as people plunk down their $25 and their $35 and go to them. Exactly. And there'll always be a great deal of disappointments with these. There can't help but be. Some people are perfectly satisfied. Some people, will come from Japan, will come from Europe, will come from wherever, because they do want to just at least see these people that they watch on television in person. But other people are expecting something different. There are people who come back time after time. So, basically, as you well know, as long as these guys feel that there is an audience out there and they can turn a buck from it, they'll keep on having it. And we will keep on going because we will not kick that money out of bed. It's as simple as that. But there is a certain amount, there is a balance to it, you know, and that's why, you know, in terms of my pictures, the pictures that I sell, I mean, I will turn that money over to charity, because I've already been paid for my appearance to appear there. When convention people call me up and say, listen, we'd like to offer you a little amount of money, but, you know, there are going to be a lot of people here, so you're going to be able to sell a lot of pictures. I explain to them, no, I want the money from you, and because the pictures go to, you know, to the charities. Most of the time they pass, and they'll go and get someone else. But it is, you know, these guys run a business. And as long as people keep on showing up the door, they will continue to do that business. But as long as these events, you know, happen in good faith, you know, there are a group of us who will more than willing, you know, participate in them. And we prefer them. We have a much better time. I mean, we don't get paid anything for it, but that's not the point. The point is we are all taking our money and we're putting it into those areas that we think are important, that need it. You know, it's a tough one, Michelle. I know what you're saying, but this is America, and we're, you know, and it's a free enterprise, free market, and we can gouge as much as we can gouge, as long as we don't get caught. You know, break the law or get caught or whatever. Don't get me started on that.
Still on my second event.
This year, I'm sorry.
Second event of Weekend on Promenade.
Oh, right.
Scottsdale last year was my first. When I first heard the event you described, I said, that's impossible. It's too good to be true. Because I'm from Florida, and all we have there is Volcon and the year past was creation.
Yeah.
For their money, as you would have found out from you when you see it the money, for their money, Volcon's a pretty good deal. But this whole idea of Weekend on Promenade, I was came home to Scottsdale last September, and I was like, in days, for a week, I said, I can't believe what I'm experiencing. Totally the antithesis of the commercial convention.
Yeah.
And the idea of the term I use to describe what goes on in this movement is community.
Exactly right. It's community.
You guys
Community
come
is
and do what you could do. We come out and do what we could do. And it's community.
Yeah.
And we're doing wonderful
Well,
things.
isn't that the Star Trek ideal anyway? Isn't it? There's a sense of community that's built into what Roddenberry's original idea was. I mean, God knows we've got a long ways to go. I mean, racism, poverty, greed, all of that shit is still, you know, having their day. But I mean, groups like this, I mean, that get together. I mean, pockets like this really do hold back the night, you know, a little bit longer. Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question, even though I'm probably looking at an answer beforehand, but
I like your friend, Joan. I mean, I keep on the corner of my eye. I think, who's that? Who's that in her lap?
it's sort of a two-part question. First of all, are you having as much fun at this A being Weekend on the Promenade, B being when you have an X Club? Are you having as much fun with these things as we are?
Well, you know, absolutely. And I'll tell you, because Gail's organization gets better and better. You see, the better organized it is, you know, the more fun we have. And I think it's true for you, too. I think it's true because you know, the fatigue factor, you know, I mean, like, you know, like, there are sometimes, I mean, you know, you know, like, for instance, and I'm not putting him down, but what is that, the Fantasticon, the Bill Campbell thing? The first one I went to, I thought they were going to carry me away raving in a straitjacket. It drove me crazy. You know, here was a charity event that was like, it was like a badly run creation con. You know? So it was bizarre. But then that got, so then we a whole bunch of us said, you know, pal, get your act together or we're not coming back. And he did. And this last one was a lot better. But something like this weekend, like last night was such a pleasure. I love listening. Armin is such an intelligent, you know, decent human being. I mean, I love hearing him talk, and and it's only in a situation like this where I hear him say things like the asterisks on the screen. Huh? No, he doesn't. When he said I don't need anyone to encourage me to tell the truth, he's absolutely right. He doesn't. Yeah, and when Renee gets going too. I mean, it's. Yeah. Yeah, no, we do have fun. Yes.
You mentioned the little friend there. Have you seen the Kardashian baby somebody has?
No.
Kardashian baby doll?
It's Garrett's.
It's something out of a... Oh, that's scary. But Garrett, he must have looked very cute. Just hold it up. Let people see this. This is too much. This is great. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine? Even Garrett looked like that one. That's very funny.
Andy, you mentioned about affiliation, so I felt that kind of come forward because I used to work volunteering with them all the time between 93 and 95. A man that I'm married to is a personal friend of Adam and Lori Lehman, so I'm really feeling bad about how they treat you, but they're famous for getting their acting not too nicely. But you can imagine how they treat their volunteers.
Oh, I see. I'm sure that how they treat... You see, they've always treated me well. They really have always treated me well. I have no complaints with how they've treated me. But I do know, like with Sid and with other actors, that has not been the case. But I do know how I've seen their treatment of fans. And I got to tell you, I once lodged a complaint, and I got into an argument. I won't mention who it was, but he and I got into a very serious disagreement about this. Basically, where he told me it's none of my business, and I said, you know something, it is my business. You know, but I'll leave it at that. But I can imagine how they treat volunteers. And with the kind of money that they make, I don't know why they're asking for volunteers anyway, you know. They should pay people. They don't make enough? Yeah, and pigs can fly. Right. It's a business.
I think they've forgotten what they got into the business for. Just like anything that, when money, corrupts.
Yeah, that's right. Let's move on from that. Let's move on from that. I really, you know,
What would your dream episode be?
You know, I once in a while they come up with, like the one episode that I shot this year, it's a wonderful episode. It's Garrick as a human being again, as opposed to Garrick in By Pale Moonlight, Garrick as the conniver. This is now Garrick in duress, Garrick with a big problem, and once again, you know, the despised Starfleet comes through and helps him, you know, so always galls him, you know, against these problems, and the people he dislikes the most are the people who come to his aid. And, but it's a dream episode. I'm pretty satisfied when they write. As long as I'll tell you, the episodes I don't like are the episodes when he comes in and just sort of like, you know, throws up a couple of one-liners and then disappears. I mean, I feel like, well, that's not a polite expression. I feel pretty useless in those episodes. I don't know. Maybe if you know what a dream episode would be. I would love to see him with his mother. You know, we've done the thing with Tane, and they did show, and even though they never said that was his mother, I'm convinced that woman, Mila, was his mother. No question. Who was Tane's, you know, factotum, general factotum, whatever. Yes. Yes! Yes! I thought you'd never ask.
What is something more about your role in Nothing Sacred? So we never see it.
Oh, Nothing Sacred. You know, Nothing Sacred was the show about the priest that was really, it's a beautiful show, and that was such a great script. It was a small role. Basically, what it is that I can't remember the character's name, but the older priest who is the regular on the show, Father Sullivan. No. Yeah, Father Leo. Good. Yeah, right. He's accused of having molested this kid. And so this kid now comes forward, and this kid was molested. And he comes forward, and makes a complaint and says that it was Father Leo, but then it turns out it wasn't Father Leo, it was another priest, and the kid, because he was he's now a man, and the memory and the trauma and so forth, has confused his memory. And so I play a bishop, the parish bishop, that has to, and he's a very political guy, and he wants to sweep it under the rug and pay the kid off, whereas the young priest who's the lead in the show, and Father Leo himself want to bring this matter and publicize it, to get it out in the open, and so that the Catholic Church is not, sweeping things under the rug. They are trying to clean up their act. It's a very dangerous, very excellent episode. The kind of television you should see more of, and then they go and cancel it. Go figure.
Too real.
Yeah, it's dealing with good stuff. I mean, important stuff.
Father Leo stuck up my mind because he listened to Leo Horn.
That's right, and that's exactly. Good taste.
I have a question about Far Beyond the Stars. It was an excellent episode, and I was really disappointed that you weren't in it. I had heard that they had written Gareth, you, just as a human in, and then taken you out for budgetary reasons.
That's happened a number of times, yeah. That has happened a number of times.
Did you see anything about the role that they were going to have you play, or can you tell us anything about it all?
Nothing. Because I hear it literally the way you hear it. Basically it's, like for instance, there's an episode that's shooting now that I was originally in, and I was taken out, for the exact same reasons, But that's, that's okay.
You getting boring yet?
Huh?